Hey guys, welcome back to the Readers. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is Pro Revenge Story. Back in 2020, I bought a 1,500 square feet townhome condo in a growing downtown area. Prices jumped about 35% since I bought it. It was perfect for me then. Walkable, good food, live music, close to the gym. My first couple of years were great. Most neighbors were easygoing. We looked out for each other, swapped tools, pulled in packages. Everyone got along, except for one person on the HOA board. She was finishing her term limit, 8 years. We'll call her Joni B. Joni was a 66-year-old widow. Her husband passed from a heart attack years ago. She didn't work and didn't have a lot going on, so she poured herself into HOA stuff. She met a guy online, Ray, and started seeing him. Good for her. But talking to the more passive neighbors, I kept hearing how she and another older board member ran the place by bullying people before the last election. They pushed through unnecessary changes, like swapping the mulch for river rock that kicked up and cracked a few windows. They let the grills and picnic area rot because they didn't like the crowd they drew. They nitpicked one family with kids over every small thing. She fed feral cats, which brought raccoons and possums, and then got nasty with a neighbor who called animal control. People didn't like her. They tolerated her. I got married in 2023. My wife moved in and we were happy. We kept to ourselves and kept the place tidy. Over time, Joni spent more of her weeks at Ray's place in the country, about an hour away. First weekends, then longer. Eventually, she was basically living there. I'd see her maybe once a month for 15 minutes to 2 hours. That was it. Parking at our complex is simple. Each home is entitled to 2 spots close to their building, but the spots aren't assigned to units. It's first come, first served, and there's no cap on guests. The key rule in the master deed, 1 car per spot. If you need more space for a move or delivery, you need written permission from the board or property manager, and it's limited to 48 hours. New folks took over the board in 2024, mostly under 40. They started fixing things up and communicating better. It was encouraging. We had friends over regularly. They'd park anywhere in our row if there was space. Our little section was 8 townhomes facing each other. 4 on each side, with 8 spots on our side, plus a handicapped spot for a neighbor with a permit. No drama. Then after months away, Joni started popping back in around January. She'd show up on a Saturday, go out downtown, and leave. That's when the parking complaints started. She decided 2 specific spots in front of her unit were hers. Again, that's not a thing. We were willing to shuffle a car to be neighborly, at least at first, but she started parking over 2 spots, one mid-line, hogging both, like she was saving one for a guest or just to flex. I emailed our property manager, Greengate, and asked for a reminder to residents about the 1 car per spot rule. They sent one out. Didn't change anything with her. In late winter, my wife had a medical issue. She was hospitalized for 4 days and then on short-term disability for 8 weeks. My mom was the only one who could come help. She drove down to stay with us. That meant 3 cars off and on. I notified Greengate and the board, gave them my mom's make, model, and plate, and the timeline. They replied, "Thanks for the heads up, no problem." I kept the email. A week later, we had a car in front of Joni's place. She still had another open spot right there when she rolled in. She stomped over and hammered on our door so hard it rattled. She tried the handle like she could just walk in. "Open up! Move your car right now!" Our dog yelped, peed herself, then growled and barked. I opened the door and blocked it with my body. "Back up. There are no assigned spots," I said. "And the rule is 1 car per spot." She jabbed a finger toward the lot. "Those 2 are mine. I pay dues. You have 3 cars. That's against the rules. My mom's here helping with a medical situation. It's approved. And again, no assigned spots." "We're going to have a problem," she snapped, then stomped away and parked crooked over 2 spaces like always. The next time, 2 weeks later, she pulled the same routine. We didn't move any cars. I started taking photos every time she overlapped lines or blocked spots. I forwarded a few to Greengate and the board with dates and times. I kept things dry and factual. The banging continued. One time she dented the door frame with her keys. Other times she'd show up when we weren't home and park diagonally. I took more photos. She started leaving notes like, "You know these are mine," and signed a scribble that kind of looked like her name. I snapped pictures of those too. Then it escalated. I was at the gym when my phone blew up. 2 missed calls from my wife and a text from my mom. "Someone is yelling outside and says they're towing the SUV." I sped home. I pulled in and saw a pickup straddling the center of the lot. A guy in his 30s with a beer in his hand was puffing his chest. His girlfriend, same age, sat on the tailgate recording on her phone. Neither of them live in our complex. He was red-faced and loud. "My mother-in-law pays $600 a month for these spots," he he yelled. "You idiots are breaking the rules. I'm towing this right now." He dragged out towing like he was chewing on it. "That's not your mother-in-law," my mom said calmly from our stoop. "They aren't married." He sneered at her. "She will be. Don't care. Get your junk out." "Put the beer down and back off," I said. "You don't live here. You're not towing anything." He waved the can. "I'll call the tow company right now." "Do it," I said. "They'll ask for authorization from the HOA or property manager. You don't have it." He cursed and stepped closer to my wife, who was on the porch holding her belly and breathing slow. She was pale and shaking. "Hey," I said louder. "You're done talking to her." He called Joni on speaker. "Hey, Jan, they're being idiots. I'm going to have this SUV towed." I could hear Joni barking through the phone. "Stay there, I'm on my way. Park behind them so they can't leave." She rolled in 20 minutes later, parked behind all three of ours to block us in, and hopped out. She pointed at us like we were criminals. "Move the cars now." "Move yours," I said. "You're blocking the fire lane." "You don't tell me what to do," she snapped. That was it. I pulled out my phone, stepped to the side, and took wide shots with the timestamp. Her car boxed behind ours, the beer in the guy's hand, my wife sitting on the rocker clutching her stomach. I called the police. I was done. She saw me on the phone, got back in her car, and moved it just enough to not be obviously blocking the driveway. I still had the photos. By the time the officers arrived, I had printed my emails with Green Gate, the board's approval of my mom's car, and a handful of photos. I threw on a clean polo and shorts. My wife sat in her rocker. My mom waited at the table with a glass of water. Our dog curled under the chair, still on edge. Outside, I could hear Joni and the boyfriend's son yelling at the officers before they even knocked. When the knock came, I opened and stepped aside. Joni tried to shoulder in with them. "Back off," I said. "You're not invited in." The officer, a calm guy in his 40s, nodded to me. "We're here about a parking dispute." "Sorry to waste your time with something so dumb," I said. "But this has turned ugly. She's been escalating. She tried to block us in, and her friend was shouting at my pregnant wife, waving a beer around. I have emails with the HOA, photos and notes." I handed over the stack. He and his partner flipped through it quickly. The second officer asked, "Any threats of violence?" "Not direct," I said, "but she tried to enter our home, has been banging on the door and dented the frame. They've been screaming in our faces." My mom added, "Her dog is terrified." My wife said quietly, "I just want them to leave us alone. I'm tired." The first officer sighed. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm issuing a trespass warning for your walkway and stoop. If she steps onto your porch again, she'll be arrested." He stepped back outside with his partner. We watched through the window. He spoke calmly to Joni, explaining the trespass warning and that she had to give us space. She waved her arms, pointed at the ground, and raised her voice. "This is community property," she yelled. "You can't trespass me from community property. I pay my fees." "It applies to their stoop and walkway," he said. "Step on it again and you will be arrested." She pointed at me through the glass and marched straight up to the edge of my stoop in a showy, slow walk, like she was daring him. She stepped on the lowest brick and crossed onto our walkway. He cuffed her on the spot. He read her the charge, disorderly conduct and harassment. She argued the whole time. "You'll be hearing from our attorney," she snapped. The officer didn't flinch. "Okay." The boyfriend's son started mouthing off again. "This is ridiculous. You're arresting a homeowner for standing on concrete? Unreal." "Go home," the second officer said to him. "Right now." He rolled his eyes, jumped into his truck with his girlfriend, and peeled out of the lot. The second officer pulled out shortly after. About 30 seconds later, we heard the siren from the main road. He got them for DUI. They cuffed both. I saw it from the corner of our lot. The lot was quiet for the first time in weeks. The officers finished up inside with us and told us to call if anything else happened. We didn't hear a peep for 2 days. On day 2, Joni and Ray came back, dropped Ray's SUV in our row, and left in Joni's car. It sat there taking a spot while nobody was home. I checked our bylaws. Only residents can store vehicles in the lot. Guests can't leave a car if the resident isn't present. I called Green Gate. "Ray doesn't live here," I said. "His vehicle has been left in our lot unattended. It's been 24 hours. Green Gate checked the plates. "You're right, he's not an owner. We'll tag it. If it's still there in the morning, we'll tow." They towed it the next day. 8 weeks later, I saw the for sale sign go up in front of Joni's unit. A few months after that, I sold my place, moved, and felt my shoulders drop for the first time in a while. I still have the file folder. Photos, emails, timestamps. I don't plan to need it again, but it's there. To whoever buys that unit next. May your neighbors be boring and your parking be normal. The next one is an entitled People Story. The first time I saw the place, it didn't even feel real. A rough timber A-frame on a sloped lot with a view of the ridgeline and a brown metal roof that always made the snow slide off in big sheets. You could hear the lifts from the deck if you stood still long enough. After years of saving, bidding, losing, and trying again, I finally closed. The county issued the certificate of occupancy after the last owner did a remodel. I lined up a small moving truck, a couple of friends, and my dad, who refuses to admit that he's not 30 anymore. We pulled up on a Saturday just after sunrise. Fresh snow, clear sky, air that bit a little when you breathed it in. I had a printed binder sitting on the dashboard with every scrap of paper I might need. Closing packet, recorded deed with the reception number, the assessor printout, the permit receipts, the certificate of occupancy. I grew up watching family members get tripped up by paperwork. I wasn't going to be the person who didn't have the right piece of paper. We got 2 loads inside before the parade started. A white SUV crawled up the hill with hazard lights going. Then a second one with a magnetic sign on the door that said Community Management in a generic font. A third car pulled up and nosed into my driveway so close behind the truck that I couldn't angle back out without hitting it. The first SUV was packed with people in puff jackets and clipboards. The woman in the passenger seat rolled her window down. "Morning," she said. "We're with the association. You need to stop." I laughed because I thought it was a joke. "Stop what? Moving boxes?" She didn't laugh. "You may not move in until the Architectural Review Committee approves your exterior color scheme and signage plan. Also, transfers must be approved by the board prior to occupancy. You failed to schedule a welcome inspection. You also owe an initiation fee and the current quarter's dues." I put my box down on the truck bed and looked over her shoulder at my new dark brown house, which matched the photo in the listing, which matched the photo in the county file from last year. "This house isn't in your association," I said. "It never has been. This parcel predates your subdivision." A guy in a ski jacket with a logo hopped out of the second car. "That's not correct. The supplemental declaration annexed your parcel last fall. It's part of the master now. We need your application, and we need you to schedule your trash and snow service through us. It's a safety issue." "I'm not scheduling anything through you," I said. "Back your car out of my driveway." "We've already called the sheriff," the woman said, and nodded like she'd done me a favor. "We can't let unapproved occupancy happen. It's a liability." My dad climbed down from the truck with a box labeled Kitchen Heavy and stared. "What is this?" "Go put that inside," I said. "Don't engage." He kept walking because he's smart. They didn't like that. "Sir," the guy in the ski jacket called after him. "Sir, stop." I pulled my phone out and called the non-emergency line and gave the address. "Just so we're clear," I said to the woman, "you're blocking my driveway. If the deputy shows up, I'm going to ask him to tell you to leave." "Good luck with that," she said. "This is community property. You can't exclude us." 10 minutes later, the county SUV rolled up behind their little caravan. The deputy flipped his lights on, stepped out, looked at the lineup of cars, and then at me. He took in the moving truck, the dolly, my dad in the doorway holding a lamp like a deer in a yard. "Who called?" he asked. "They did," I said, pointing at the woman. "And I did, after they blocked my driveway and told me I can't move into my own house." He turned to them. "What's going on?" The woman launched into a speech about safety, approvals, hazards, snowplows, the community, our roads, and how I hadn't been vetted. She used a lot of words and didn't say anything that made sense. The deputy held up a hand. "Do you have any authority over this property?" She pointed at the clipboard. "We have the declaration and the most recent annexation. This parcel is part of the master association. We have rules." "Do you have a court order?" he asked. "Do you have a writ? Anything like that?" "It doesn't work like that," the guy in the ski jacket said. "We're the HOA." The deputy looked at me. "Do you have proof of ownership?" "Yep," I said, and flipped open the binder to the recorded deed. I keep sticky tabs on everything. I showed him the reception number and the legal description and the assessor printout with the parcel number. Then I slid the county's certificate of occupancy across the hood to him for good measure. He took his time. "What is your understanding of whether you're subject to this association?" "This parcel existed before they recorded their CC and ours," I said. "It's on a different plat. No one ever signed on to their covenants. I never did." There's no recorded annexation for this lot. The seller told me the same thing and gave me copies. I called the county planner during inspection and confirmed. I printed the email. I turned to the right tab and handed him the email from the planning tech that said in plain language that my lot was outside the boundary for the recorded covenants for the association across the street. No supplemental declaration was listed for my parcel. It had been built as an independent lot. It had its own road easement onto the county road. No shared maintenance agreements. I had stared at that email so many times during escrow that I could recite it. The deputy walked over to the woman and the guy and asked to see what they had. They gave him a packet with a lot of letterhead and bullet points that looked official. He thumbed through it for a minute, then came back. "All right," he said. "Here's the deal. This is a civil dispute. I don't enforce association rules. I'm not stopping anybody from moving into a house they own. I'm going to ask you to move your cars so they're not blocking the driveway. If you think this home is under your covenants, take it up in civil court. Don't call us to muscle somebody into paying you fees." "You're enabling a violation," the woman snapped. "We'll be filing fines starting today, and we have a stop-use notice." The deputy looked bored. "Move your cars, or I can start writing tickets for blocking a driveway on a county road. Up to you." They backed out, one by one, and huddled in the street like we were a crime scene. The woman shoved a violation notice under a rock on my porch that said I owed hundreds of dollars in failure to submit an architectural application, appearance of non-conforming roof color, and unapproved occupancy. I picked it up and put it straight into a file folder marked trash. The deputy gave me a card and said, "Call us if they come back and start causing issues, but you should also talk to an attorney. If they record anything against your title, you'll want to get it removed." "Thanks," I said. "Sorry you had to come out." "You wouldn't believe how many times I do this with HOA folks," he said, and drove off. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. By lunchtime, 2 more violation notes were taped to my door. Someone had staked a little plastic sign in the snowbank at the edge of my driveway that said, "Stop work, unapproved." A paper was folded under my doormat, an invoice for an initiation fee and the first quarter's dues, payable within 10 days. A voicemail from a number I didn't recognize informed me that my trash would not be picked up unless I set up service through them for our private roads. "My road is not private," I called the number on the invoice. A woman with a chirpy voice answered. "You've reached community management. How can I help?" "I'm calling about the invoice and the notes on my door. Stop putting things on my property. Stop sending me invoices. I'm not a member of your group." "I'm seeing the address in our system," she said and read off my street. "You owe the initiation fee and prorated dues. We also have some architectural violations listed. If you email your paint swatches and exterior materials, we can get that started." "I'm not emailing you anything," I said. "Remove my address from your system." "I'm sorry, that's not something we can do without board approval." "Great," I said. "Tell whoever's on that board that if I see one more thing taped to my door, I'll file a police report." She went quiet. "I don't want this to be adversarial," she said. "We're just trying to keep our community standards." "I'm not in your community," I said, and hung up. They didn't stop. Day 2, a guy in a pickup parked across the end of my driveway and put cones down like he was directing traffic. He told my dad he was there to measure because my snow storage zone wasn't compliant. My dad told him to get off the property. The guy said the right-of-way was common area and he had a right to inspect. He did not. I went outside with my phone recording. "Leave," I said. He puffed himself up. "I'm the chair of the compliance committee." "I don't care," I said. "Leave." "We can place a lien," he said. "We can shut down your access to the road. We own the road." "You own the road?" I asked. "Yes," he said. The county road and bridge truck came by to sand a slick spot, and the driver waved at me. The compliance guy shut up. On day 3, 2 orange sawhorses appeared at the pavement cut where my driveway meets the county road. Someone had spray-painted "no access" on them and dragged rocks to block the edge. It snowed that night. I got up early, walked down with a shovel, and moved the rocks back onto the other side of the property line. I pushed the sawhorses into the ditch and called the deputy's number. "They're escalating," I said. "Document everything," he said. "If they're blocking your access to a public road, that's a problem. If you can identify who did it, we can talk about a summons." I bought 2 cameras and pointed them at the driveway and the porch. Motion alerts pinged my phone all afternoon. Every time I got an alert, it was some version of the same thing. A person in puffy winter gear walking up to tape something to my door or take a photo. A flag tied to a stake appeared in my snowbank with survey written on it. There was no survey crew, no equipment, just a flag to make it look official. Then a letter came by certified mail that said notice of hearing. They wanted me to appear before their board to show cause why they shouldn't start daily fines. It said they would impose fines up to $100 per day and record them as a lien if unpaid. I called an attorney. I found someone whose office handled real estate and association disputes. I brought the binder, the violation notes, the notices, the email from the county, the certified letter, the photos. We sat in a plain office with dry air and a fern in the corner. "You're not subject to that association," the attorney said after 5 minutes of paging through my papers. "Their declaration doesn't list your parcel. There's no supplemental annexation for your parcel. They can't unilaterally add you by passing a board vote. Annexation requires recorded consent by the owner of the parcel and, depending on the document, sometimes the consent of all existing members. There's nothing here that binds you. If they record any lien based on fines, it will be recorded against your title and we'll have to get it removed." "What do I do now?" I asked. "I'll send a demand letter today," the attorney said. "We'll demand that they cease contact, stop trespassing, stop placing notices, and confirm in writing that they will not attempt to record any encumbrance against your title. We'll give them 5 days to respond. If they don't, we'll file a complaint for declaratory judgment and an injunction. If they've recorded anything, we'll add a claim for slander of title. In this state, recording a false document against someone's title can also be a crime. I'll copy the county attorney's office." "Do I keep moving in?" I asked. "Yes," the attorney said. "Law enforcement has already told them this is civil. Don't engage. If they trespass again, call. If they touch your property, call. Keep your cameras running." The letter went out that afternoon, certified and email. We gave them the reception number for my deed, the county email, and a highlighted copy of the page from their own declaration that said annexation required the written consent of the owner and a recorded instrument. We demanded they remove my address from their system. We demanded they stop sending invoices. They responded with a long, windy email that said in short that the board had taken a vote last fall to bring the orphan parcels into compliance, and that the community expected me to participate. They attached a copy of something they had recorded that I hadn't seen before. It was a 2-page supplement to declaration. They had typed my street address on it and recorded it. It wasn't signed by any owner. It wasn't signed by me. It wasn't even correct. The legal description they typed didn't match the metes and bounds on my deed. It was nonsense. It had a reception number and a stamp, and that was it. My attorney's tone got sharper after that. "They just made a bad mistake," the attorney said. "This is exactly the kind of thing that brings penalties. This is where slander of title applies. We'll also ask the court to award fees. We can get a temporary restraining order fast, because they're actively interfering with your use." We filed 2 days later. The complaint laid out the chain of title for my parcel, the dates their covenants were recorded, the lack of any owner consent to annexation, the fact that the supposed supplement didn't list a correct legal description, and the timeline of harassment. We attached the notices, the invoices, the driveway blockage photos, the voicemail about trash service, and the motion alerts. We asked for a declaratory judgment that said my parcel was not subject to their covenants, and for a permanent injunction barring them from contacting me, placing anything on my property, or recording any further documents affecting my title. We asked for damages for slander of title and for fees. We also filed a motion for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction, and the court said it quickly. The hearing was on a Wednesday morning. I sat in a room with wood paneling and the kind of carpet that makes a room feel cold no matter how warm the thermostat is. Across the aisle, the woman from the first day sat with a man in a suit who looked irritated to be there. The guy in the ski jacket sat behind them and made faces like he was chewing a lemon. The deputy wasn't there, obviously, but I wished he could see this. The judge walked in, sat, and looked at the stack of paper. "This is a motion for a preliminary injunction," the judge said. "I've read the filings." My attorney stood. "Plaintiff seeks to stop the defendant association from continuing to trespass, harass, and interfere with his property rights. He's not a member of the association. They recorded a document that purports to annex his parcel without his consent. They continue to send him invoices, notices, and now threaten to record a lien. He has no adequate remedy at law because they're clouding his title. He's likely to succeed on the merits. We've provided the county's written confirmation that his parcel is outside the recorded boundaries of the CC and ours. The defendant's own document requires owner consent for annexation." The judge turned to the attorney for the other side. "Response?" The other attorney stood. "Your Honor, this is a mountain community with shared roads and a shared look and feel. The association had to act to protect safety and uniformity. The board voted to bring this parcel under the umbrella. The association bears the cost of road maintenance and snow removal and—" The judge held up a hand. "Does your declaration allow you to unilaterally annex parcels?" The board voted, the other attorney said again. Answer my question, the judge said. The other attorney shifted. The declaration contemplates annexation. Does it require the owner's written consent? The judge asked. The other attorney looked at his papers and didn't answer. My attorney had already highlighted the line in the copy we submitted. The judge knew what it said. Even if you could annex, the judge said, you would need to do it properly. You would need to record a document with a correct legal description and the signatures required under your own declaration. You do not have that. You recorded a paper with an address on it and an incorrect description. You then use that to justify sending invoices and threatening to lien this person's home. That is exactly the kind of conduct preliminary injunctions exist to stop. The other attorney tried again. We have concerns about snow storage and trash service, and those may be your concerns, the judge said. They are not this plaintiff's problem if he's not a member. You don't get to enforce covenants against non-members because it would be neat or tidy. The judge granted the temporary restraining order on the spot, enjoined them from recording anything else against my title, ordered them to remove any notices from my property, and set a date for a full hearing on the declaratory judgment. The judge also added, if I see anything else recorded referencing this parcel between now and the next hearing, someone's going to have a bad day. They left tight-lipped and quiet. My attorney smiled a small smile. They'll either fold, the attorney said, or they'll dig in and make it worse. They dug in for one more week. They sent one last notice of hearing as if the court's order didn't exist. My attorney emailed back a copy of the order and warned them again. They stopped after that. A day later, a worker from the property management company pulled the plastic sign out of my snowbank and took it without saying a word. The guy in the ski jacket drove by slow one afternoon and stared up at my roof like it personally offended him. He didn't stop. At the final hearing, the judge issued a declaratory judgment that said my parcel is not and never has been subject to the association's CC and Rs, that the recorded supplement was void and of no effect as to my parcel, that the association is permanently enjoined from representing that my parcel is subject to its control, and that the association shall remove any reference to my address from its records and systems. The judge awarded me my attorney fees, citing the recorded nonsense and the continued contact after my attorney's demand letter. The judge also signed an order to the clerk to index the judgment with the county recorder under my parcel number so everything was tied together cleanly in the land records. That's a small thing that matters later. We also referred the recorded supplement to the county attorney. In this county, recording a false instrument is a crime. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I do know that a couple of weeks after the hearing, the woman who had first told me to stop moving in was not the president anymore. The association sent my attorney a letter that read like it had been written under supervision. It said they would remove my address from their database, that they understood they had no authority over my property, and that they had updated their community map to show the boundary line stopping short of my lot. It came with a copy of a resolution where they rescinded their annexation vote. It also came with a check for my fees. I asked the county recorder's office if they would remove the false supplement. We don't remove anything, the clerk said. But we can mark it as void and link it to the court's judgment. That's what they did. Now, anyone who pulls my parcel sees the voided supplement, the judgment, and the rest of my chain of title. Clean. The best moment, though, wasn't in court. It was a late afternoon a week later when a county road and bridge truck pulled up to plow the end of the road after a heavy snow. The driver hopped out and walked up my driveway with a form in his hand. Got a minute? He asked. Sure, I said. Lot of noise about whether this was a private road, he said. It's not. It's on our list. Has been for years. Just wanted you to know we're glad you spoke up. It's real easy for groups to start thinking they run everything. I didn't want to be a fight, I said. I just wanted to put my couch in my house on a Saturday morning. He laughed. Welcome to the neighborhood, he said, and went back to his plow. My dad now tells everyone that I won a lawsuit my first week living in the mountains. That's not exactly how it went, but I don't correct him. The truth is, I'd rather not have spent the first month in court. I wanted to learn how to use the wood stove without smoking out the kitchen. I wanted to figure out the best time to drive to avoid the tunnel backup on Sundays. I wanted to sit on my deck and watch the lights on the far run and let my dog try to figure out why the snowblower was allowed to be that loud. I keep the binder by the front door now. Deed, certificate of occupancy, the county email, the court order. I haven't needed it again. The cameras still send me motion alerts sometimes, but it's wildlife now. I did get a polite letter from a neighbor a couple of streets over who had heard about the case and wanted to know how to check whether his cabin was actually annexed properly years ago. I told him to go to the county site and pull his chain of title. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. The land records don't lie. People do. The association still exists across the street. They planted new signs at their entrance that say private roads and list a speed limit that no one down the county road pays attention to. It's their stuff. They can have it. I wave at people who drive by. Most wave back. A couple turn their heads away like I'm a ghost. I can't control what they think. I can control my property. I can sit on my deck, drink coffee, and watch the morning skiers take the first runs while the sun hits the ridge. I can take a lesson on a weekday like I promised myself I would. I can stack wood without a committee vote. I can shovel my driveway the way I like it, which is straight lines and a clean edge at the asphalt for the plow to catch. I can hang a wind chime by the back door and not have a form for it. When the next storm rolled through, someone stuck a new violation notice on the stop sign at the corner, aimed at someone else. Old habits, not my problem. The deputy who came out on move-in day drove up one afternoon for something unrelated. He slowed down when he saw me, rolled his window down, and pointed at the roof. "Looks approved to me," he said, grinning. "Officially approved," I said, and laughed. I know it could have gone the other way. If I hadn't kept the papers. If I hadn't called the county during escrow. If I'd tossed that first notice in the trash and ignored the rest. If the judge had been the kind who doesn't move quickly on injunctions. If the association had recorded a cleaner document. A lot of people get steamrolled by groups like that because they don't know they can push back or they get tired and just write a check. I get why. It's exhausting. But there's paper for a reason. There are lines on maps for a reason. You can't just point a finger across a road and say, "We own that now," because it suits you. You can't send a deputy to some guy's house on a Saturday morning and tell his dad to stop carrying boxes. That will get you laughed out of a courtroom, and in my case it did. The best part isn't the check they wrote my attorney or the judgment or the emails where they folded. It's that they know now they can't push every person the same way and expect it to work. If they want to play by rules, they can play by their rules inside their lines. I have mine. They're recorded. They're not going anywhere. I still keep the deputy's card on my fridge, not out of fear, out of respect. There's something decent about a guy in a county jacket standing on a frozen driveway, listening to both sides, and then saying in a calm voice, "Move your cars." Sometimes that's all it takes to stop a stupid thing from getting worse. So, yes, the association sent the sheriff to confront me while I was moving into my new ski lodge. They said I wasn't approved. They thought they ran the hill. They didn't. I got approved by the only people who matter for that. The county that issued the permit, the clerk who stamped the deed, and the judge who put it in writing that my home is just that. Mine. Anyway, thank you for watching.